Actress AnnaLynne McCord is usually in the spotlight for her work with roles on TV shows like Nip Tuck, the reboot of 90210, and Feliz Navidad with Mario Lopez. But just 2 weeks ago, she made headlines for something more personal, her private struggle with a condition called dissociative identity disorder, previously known as multiple personality disorder. After participating in a series of YouTube videos with one of her doctors, word spread about the 33-year-old actress's diagnosis, the result of deep-seated childhood trauma that included sexual abuse.
The way this is talked about is with so much shame. I am absolutely uninterested in shame. There is nothing about my journey that I invite shame into anymore.
As a teenager, AnnaLynne moved to New York to start her career as a model and actress. It was then she suffered yet another trauma, a sexual assault at the hands of a friend. Now she's embracing her diagnosis and sharing with the world what she hopes others can take from her story of survival and resilience. AnnaLynne joins us now from Bridgehampton, New York. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Tamron.
Of course, this has been whirlwind for you. I mean, it's only been about 2 weeks since your story, your truth, was unexpectedly revealed. How are you holding up? I know there have been many, many questions, and you're still trying to process this.
Yes, I mean, considering my life, this is probably the least stressful moment of it. So at this point, I'm just grateful to be very much on the other side of a lot of what has caused me so much hell. And I have learned, and I'm sorry if I'm a little emotional, but watching Melissa, I mean, I just was blown away by your interview with her. This, for me, really, at this point, I'm just like, can we just stop with the stigmatization? I'm so done with shame and cancel culture and this ridiculous preposterousness of no redemption and an inability to move beyond. I know for me, a lot of people started reaching out, like close people to me, being like, oh, you shouldn't have done this. Like, this is, you're not going to get hired. You're going to be a liability to studios and you're not going to get hired. And then I'm getting DMs from people who are saying, I've dealt with this for 69 years of my life and I've never met someone who had what I had, and you made me feel seen and touch my core in a way that no one except my doctor has been able to reach that deep. So I'm like, okay.
Right, you're like, okay, I got to juggle all of this incoming, I have to juggle all of these incoming thoughts. But at the core of this, so our audience understands, you were diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, where people, I think they used to call it multiple personalities. People know of different movies and books and things about it. But how do you explain it? And how do you get people to understand what that means?
Well, the first thing I like to say is what you think you know is wrong. What the movies have told you, all wrong, completely inaccurate. And even the reason that the Diagnostic Statistics Manual changed the name of this mental health issue from multiple personality disorder to dissociative identity disorder is because it's not actually, I play different personalities on camera, right? Mm-hmm. I wasn't becoming different people. It was fragments of myself. It was little parts of AnnaLynne. So I was disassociating from my own identity, and parts of my identity were over here. And if I was hanging out with you, you look like a fabulous woman and we'd have a fabulous time together. But if I was dealing with something where, especially with men, I become something different. And it wasn't that all of those parts weren't me.
Right.
It was just that I could only be in them in compartments. I could only be a me that I was with you. And then another person would bring out another part of me that had never been integrated.
So I know that you've talked about people around you, friends, thought you were being extra or a lot. They were seeing these compartmentalized versions of you and thought that you were just being extra.
100%. And don't get me wrong, I am a little extra, but I embrace that aspect of myself. This level of extra was something that they couldn't put words to. And what was happening was when there was crossover, for example, my makeup artist has our personal relationship where I get to be a certain part of myself in that space. And this is past tense now. I'm grateful to be integrated as of March of 2019. But at that time, he would see that, but then he would see me on the red carpet 25 minutes later. And I'm like this autopilot starlet who's doing all of the interviews just so and la 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 la. And he's just like, can you get out of that weird energy or whatever, you know? And it is like an energetic shift, but I didn't have the control to always pull the reins back.
AnnaLynne, you know that famous book and movie Sybil. When you came out with this, I'm sure you thought, okay, here we go. I'll have to explain or have myself compared to Sybil, you know, by everyone, and asking, how did you prepare yourself for that?
Well, it's crazy because it kind of accidentally, we did this YouTube interview and I was talking with Dr. Amen, who I met actually from my old 90210 co-star, Shanae, who had him on our new podcast that we're launching next week. And she was like, we're going to get a brain scan. It's going to be cool. So it was really this kind of like organic situation where I went in for brain scans. He was going through it and he's like, would you mind doing this on camera so that we can, you know, put this on my YouTube channel and kind of put voice to this? And I was like, of course, it's all I care about is putting voice to these things that people don't want to talk about. So we did that. And then I get a text from a friend who's like, I'm proud of you. And I'm like, for what? And I didn't know that it had hit. Yeah. So for me, like this, you know, this whole thing came from my heart, which was to expose the fact that this little girl that was living inside of me for all of these years in a compartment, and this is the part of DID that people should know about. It's not so much the parts that you're going to see and the Sybil of it all. It's who's missing. What parts of me were missing? I had my heart broken and I didn't believe love was possible in the world, not for me.
You have identified some of the personalities. You mentioned your 6-year-old self and your 13-year-old self, who you call little Anna. How do these, give me an example of when little Anna has shown up or made her presence known?
So little Anna became my guiding light. She was one of the parts of me that I was talking about where she didn't exist. Like I had no access to her. She was unsafe. Parts of that without my awareness would come up when I was with men and couldn't speak my needs. I would get this childlike kind of playful voice and very much embody the smallness of a child to kind of be like, you hurt my feelings. Because I couldn't say these words. There was something terrifying. And that's what people don't understand about this. We split off our beautiful, intelligent, incredible brains, do this to protect ourselves, right? So if I'm triggered by speaking my needs to the male populace, then I need to become something else to do that. So little Anna would appear.
Are you able to control the personalities?
I have integrated now, and I'm so grateful to say that though I can distinctly tell when I fluctuate, nuanced behaviors still exist. There's nothing where I can't keep the reins anymore.
You mentioned 90210 and one of your castmates on that show. There was an incident on that show that triggered some of this as well?
It was actually the return. So I did a film called Excision, which was a very dark, independent film that won Sundance Awards, and we're very proud to be a part of it as an actress. It was amazing. What I didn't know it would open up for me was this kind of darker side of myself that had been hiding underneath the surface. And I only discovered it because I wrapped at 2 a.m. on the film set for Excision and went at 12 noon the next day to be happy blonde bombshell Naomi. And I couldn't find her. I couldn't get her back. I didn't know how to be Naomi and care about Beverly Hills and Prada bags. You know, I was in an exposing part of myself that I felt had the reins.
Are you on prescribed medicines? Do you go to meditation? What is the treatment like?
So I actually was brought off of the medication that I was put on when I was diagnosed for bipolar. That I no longer have really any symptoms from bipolar. I have like insomnia, but that's kind of a trauma thing. Sleeping is hard for people with trauma, especially the nature of mine. But I was removed from Lamictal. I now my treatment is pretty much my self practice. So I do breath work. Last night I was on the bathroom floor crying and expelling more energy with pranayama breath work. I do. I obviously have my doctor, my therapist to talk to, but we work through so much and so much is integrated. She's like, "Well, it's nice hanging out with you. I don't really know what to say." But I'm grateful, that I have the ability now to use meditation, to use breath work, to connect the dots inside myself on my own with my power so that I feel empowered now. And it's okay to get it wrong. And my dictator understands that. She's gone bye-bye now. So.
Is this the best you've felt in your life? I mean, listen, people know you are one of the most beautiful actresses in Hollywood. You're splashed across all of the pages, very talented, but you were suffering. The childhood trauma alone, which I know is still very difficult for you to talk about, which is why we didn't unpack a lot of that for your safety and for your health. At the end of the day, though, are you or do you feel some peace, AnnaLynne, in your life?
I do, Tamron. I feel so grateful for my whole story, for all of my trauma, for all of my abuse, for all of my suicidality, for all of my self-harming. I have so much empathy for this whole world because I felt every kind of pain you can imagine. And I'm just grateful every single day. I used to not want to live. Now I wake up every morning and I'm like, woohoo, I'm alive.
I love hearing that.